I first came home to work with my father in 1961, and my father had no formal training, and I also had no formal training. During the 60s, the industry is really starting to move and evolve, and there's enormous things were happening. I mean, things like the use of refrigeration, simple things like pH meters, very electric pumps. Before that, I think a lot have been manual. I mean, one day I'll write a book about it. I know I won't, but maybe I should. But certainly, before the 1960s, winemaking in Australia was very, very basic. I leaned on a lot of people. Leaned is probably not the right word, but I knew if we were going to make good wine here at Great Western, then I had to get out and talk to people. And this is what I did. And I travelled quite often to South Australia and visit some of the wineries there. The Australian Wine Research Institute, I spent quite a lot of time there, getting advice and information. Travelled to New South Wales, up to places like Griffith, where I ran into the late Dean de Bortley, who was a marvellous character, and only too happy to show me around, and to Rutherglen and these places. And after travelling around, I think the thing at that stage was that we were a fairly small group in the industry, not like it is today, and people worked very closely together, were always happy to lend a hand, and I think to a large extent that's still the case today. I feel I can go anywhere, not only in Australia, but in the world, go into a winery and I'd be welcome. And I know certainly if any Australian winemaker comes here, or any winemaker internationally comes here, they're made very, very welcome, and we can share all our secrets, or all our stories, and that sort of thing. So coming into the industry as quite a young person in the 1960s was a wonderful opening to the industry, and I guess with my time in the industry, this is the wonderful part about it, apart from the adventure of each vintage and every year and something being different all the time. We have this marvellous camaraderie within the industry itself. So I learned from my father, and I learned from the ground up. And our first winemaker came, we employed our first winemaker in 1975. I'd been to a function, I think it was a wine dinner one night, and I met Trevor Mast, who had just joined Seppels, and I liked him. He was a nice young fella, and I said to him, I said, oh, why don't you drop over and see us one day? And a couple of days later, he came over and I showed him around, and as he was leaving, I said, if you're ever looking for a job, come and see us. He rang me up 2 days later and said, I'm looking for a job. And so that's where I employed Trevor, and Trevor was with us for 12 years. A marvellous fella, and went on to establish Lange-Duran. Our next, the replacement for Trevor was Simon Clayfield. Simon come from South Australia, but he'd had a fair bit of experience in the Hunter. He came here in 1988, and which was one of the really great years. 89, however, was a bit different, because 89 we had a lot of rain, and I think after coming from the Hunter, Simon felt quite at home amongst all the rain and the mould and the problems we had in 89. Simon stayed with us for about 9 years, and then went on to establish his own label. He worked at a couple of other wineries in the area, and then he's now got his own label, Clayfield Wines. Subsequent to Simon, we had Michael Unwin. Michael was with us for about 3 years. Very good winemaker. He came in 98, which happened to be a cracking year. It made it quite easy for him. The first years, the subsequent years weren't as good, but once again, he went on to make his mark, and now has Michael Unwin Wines at Beaufort. So firstly, of the first three winemakers employed here, they've all been young, energetic, and gone on to make their own name, but within the area itself. Homey Seabrook arrived in 2001, and he was the first of our winemakers to win the Len Evans Scholarship, which is a scholarship set up to encourage young Australian winemakers. It's very competitive, and to win that you've got to be good. Unfortunately, after winning the scholarship, he received an offer he couldn't refuse from Brown Brothers, and went over to work there for a period of time, and has now returned to the Barossa, where I believe he's also developing his own brand. After Hamish left, we looked around for another winemaker, and Hamish suggested young Chapman, Adam Wadowitz. So we contacted Adam and had a chat to him, and once again he's a bit like Trevor Mast. He's a fellow who I liked immediately, and he went on to work for us for about 5 or 6 years. He did a lot of good things here, particularly I think with Pinot. Our Pinot Noir, we've always been in a marginal area here for Pinot, and I think he did some very good things with Pinot. I think one of the problems we had during his years were the fact that we've had some very, very dry periods, and we had two quite horrific seasons here just through drought. So Adam came here during a period of very, very low production and very, very trying years. And particularly his last year, which was just the opposite, was 2011, which was a very, very wet year. So during his time here, I guess in weather patterns, he really saw the sublime to the ridiculous. We're very, very sorry to lose Adam. Adam is now across the road working in Seppel, so he's not very far if we want to borrow something, or he wants to borrow something off us. But we certainly, he was great to have here, and we certainly wish him very, very best in his new venture. Also with Adam, he's got his own vineyard, and now his own label also. So all our winemakers virtually have gone on to either stayed in the area, or if they haven't stayed in the area, they've gone elsewhere and developed their own labels. With the exception of Trevor Mast, all our winemakers, when they've arrived, have been single, unmarried, and with no children. When Trevor arrived, he was married with a small daughter. Now, with Adam, when Adam left us, we then appointed a young chap called Justin Purser. Now, Justin is married to a delightful Irish lady, and they have 2 beautiful boys. So I guess that by comparison with the others, he's at least 1 child ahead of everybody, and in some cases 2 children and the wife ahead of all the others. But we've always had the policy here of employing young people who are vigorous and who are quite positive about the industry and what they're doing. I guess with Justin, he's come to us with, I don't say high qualifications, but different qualifications. He has spent a certain amount of time working in Australia, but most of his time, in recent years, he's had about a year in Italy, working in the north of Italy, and the last couple of years have been working in Burgundy. So this should give us quite a different perspective. I believe that we can learn a lot from Europe. We don't have to follow doggedly in their footsteps. We don't have to copy their wines. We don't have to be, we should never consider ourselves inferior because we're Australian and we make Australian wines. But I think it's handy to have that knowledge. And Justin, with his previous experience, I hope can bring us quite a lot of knowledge and certainly maintain the quality of our wines, and in some cases hopefully improve them.